There was once a village where time moved slowly, like an old lullaby hummed by the wind. It was a place wrapped in clay walls, with sleepy buffaloes, clanging bells, and grandmothers whispering secrets into the ears of flickering lanterns. In this village, surrounded by tall sugarcane and low-hanging mango trees, there lived a boy named Arif. He wasn't the strongest or the smartest, but he had the kind of heart that noticed the world's whispers, the flutter of a bird's wing, the ache in a tree's shadow, the smile hiding in a stranger's eyes. He was curious, endlessly curious, and that curiosity often led him where others wouldn't go. One such place was the old riverbank, where silence lived like a ghost. The elders called it Shapath Nadi, the river of oaths. They said strange things had happened there once, that it was a place where promises were broken, and where even the water wept at night. Children were warned, don't go near the river when the morning is still. That's when the spirits listen. But Arif, he didn't believe in fear. Not yet. It was just after far prayers, when the mist still kissed the earth, that Arif wandered past the wheat fields and down the narrow path where the earth darkened near the edge. He carried nothing but a pocketful of pebbles, some stale bread, and a wild imagination. He knelt by the water and began skipping stones. 1, 2, splash. 1, 2, splash. Each ripple seemed to carry a secret across the surface, and he watched, smiling, as the rings danced away from him. In the distance, a heron flew low, brushing the water with its wings like an artist's final stroke. The air was still, the kind of stillness that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. And then he heard it. Not a cry, not quite a hiss, but something alive. Hurt. Arif turned toward the sound, a sound no one else in the village would have gone near. His bare feet padded softly across the sand, the morning dew clinging to his ankles. He followed the sound through the reeds until he found it. There, beneath a broken branch, was a serpent, small, coiled in pain, its body trapped under a jagged stone. Blood pooled at its side, dark against the pale earth. Its eyes met his, wide, helpless, not full of rage, but of plea. Most would have run, called for help, thrown a rock, but not Arif. He knelt down, quietly, gently, and whispered something the wind could not hear. I won't let you die. And in that moment, without knowing, the boy made a promise, not with words, but with action. The kind of promise that changes everything. In the hush of that misty morning, with the sun still rubbing sleep from its golden eyes, Arif crouched beside the creature, neither trembling, nor shouting, nor backing away. Before him, curled in pain, was a serpent not yet grown, its slender form crushed beneath a jagged river stone. Its scales were beautiful once, maybe still were under the blood and dust, like streaks of sunlight painted onto night. Its breathing was ragged, each rise of its side a silent battle. Its tongue flicked weakly at the air, tasting fear, but not Arif's. Most in the village believed all snakes were cursed, symbols of betrayal, born from the earth's anger. But Arif had never seen evil in the eyes of animals, only reflection. He saw it now in the serpent's gaze, a quiet, pleading sorrow, a creature not of vengeance, but of suffering. And suffering, Arif had been taught, should not be ignored. He looked around. No one in sight. Only the trees, the wind, and the silent river watched him now. He slid off his scarf, his only one, faded red with tiny stitched stars, and used it to cradle the serpent gently. The stone was heavy, and the serpent's body flinched as it was freed, but Arif's touch was careful, respectful. He whispered as he worked. Soft, meaningless things. Comforting things. Words a mother might hum to a fevered child. You'll be okay. I've got you, just hold on. The snake didn't strike. Didn't hiss. It only lay still, exhausted, its pain now shared by the boy who wouldn't leave. With trembling hands, Arif dipped a cloth into the river, washing away the dirt from the serpent's wound. He winced at the sight of torn flesh, but didn't flinch. He tore part of his own corda to bind the bleeding. He even fed it bits of stale bread soaked in water, though it barely moved its mouth. Hours passed like seconds, or maybe centuries. He sat in the grass with the snake beside him, letting the morning turn into day. He forgot the warnings, forgot the fear. All he knew was that a life was slipping, and his hands could stop it. And somehow they did. By the time the sun began to climb high above the neem trees, the serpent stirred. It lifted its head, not much, but enough, and stared into Arif's eyes. And Arif, barely 10 years old, smiled back. He didn't expect anything. No reward. No miracle. He only hoped the creature would live, that maybe tomorrow it would return to the wild where it belonged. But deep inside the serpent, something shifted. Because not all promises are spoken aloud. Some are written in the act of saving. And some debts are remembered, even by those with no voice to speak them. The days that followed were quiet, like the hush after rain. Arif kept the serpent hidden in a corner of his family's old barn, where shafts of light danced through wooden slats and the scent of hay lingered in the air. He fed it, spoke to it, watched over it with the silent devotion of a child who had found something the world had forgotten to care for. No one knew, not his mother, not his cousins who played in the fields, not the men who drank tea and spoke of spirits. To them, snakes were to be feared, to be driven out with fire and sticks. But Arif saw no evil in the serpent. He saw pain and now, trust. As the snake healed, something strange began to happen. Not with its body, but with its eyes. They no longer looked like the eyes of an animal. They began to reflect thought, memory, almost gratitude. One evening, as the orange sky dipped behind the banyan tree, Arif sat beside the serpent just like every day. He placed his hand gently on its side and whispered, "I think you're strong enough now." The snake, coiled calmly, slowly lifted its head, and for the first time, spoke. Yes, spoke. Its voice was not like thunder. It was a whisper, like wind through dry leaves. A sound more felt than heard. "You are not like the others," it said. "You chose mercy, even when the world teaches fear." Arif froze, unsure whether he had imagined it. He blinked, heart racing. The serpent continued, "Because you saved me, I offer you a truth. One day, I will return this kindness. I will come to you, not as a beast, but as a bond. But know this, when I return, you must not deny me. Whatever I ask, you must remember this day." The boy, wide-eyed but strangely calm, nodded slowly. His voice cracked as he spoke, "I promise." The serpent blinked once, slowly, deeply, and then coiled itself tighter, resting its head as if in prayer. In that moment, something ancient passed between them, something older than words, older than the fear between man and serpent. It was a contract not written, not signed, but sealed. With that, the serpent slithered away that very night, vanishing into the underbrush beneath the moonlight. Arif stood silently, watching the ripples it left in the grass. He returned home that night thinking the chapter had closed. He was wrong. Children forget. Hearts grow heavy with years. But promises do not sleep. Some wait quietly beneath the soil. Some slither through the dark. And some come back when the time is right. Time, like the river that once whispered to Arif, flowed on without pause. Seasons changed their clothes. Mango trees bore fruit and shed it. New roofs rose in the village, and old walls crumbled without ceremony. The world moved ahead, quietly, steadily, and so did Arif. The boy who once skipped stones by the cursed riverbank grew into a man whose hands now bore the calluses of hard labor. His feet no longer danced with curiosity, they marched with purpose. He married, built a house, planted fields, and became a father to a son who carried his wide eyes, but not yet his stories. The barn where a wounded serpent once lay became a storage shed. The red scarf, stained with dried blood and time, was lost in a pile of forgotten rags. And the promise, that small, tender vow made beneath a twilight sky, was buried beneath the weight of responsibility, bills, harvests, and the daily dust of living. People in the village now respected Arif. He was a man of decisions, of wisdom, of consequence. He was no longer the boy who believed snakes could speak. And yet sometimes, when the nights were too quiet and the wind brushed just right against the bamboo curtains, Arif would pause. He would feel something stir, a memory like the scent of old firewood, a slither of thought, a forgotten voice saying, "You must not deny me." But then his child would cry, or his wife would call, and the moment would pass. The world, after all, leaves little room for childhood dreams. Still, nature never forgets. And the past, especially promises made in innocence, are not easily erased. The river still flowed, though no one visited its bank anymore. Old folks still whispered stories of the cursed waters and oaths that bound souls. But such tales became entertainment, not warnings. The younger generation laughed at the idea of snakes talking, of men bound to beasts by honor. Even Arif. One evening, years later, Arif sat on his porch as the sun melted into gold over his ripened wheat. His son, now nearly a man himself, played a flute by the trees, a haunting melody, soft and strangely familiar. Arif smiled, proud and content. But in the shadows behind the house, near the old banyan tree, something watched. Silent, patient, waiting. Because some bonds are not broken by time. Some spirits do not fade with forgetting. And some promises, even when buried beneath years of soil and silence, bloom again, when you least expect it. The snake was coming. And Arif had forgotten everything, except the part of him that still felt afraid when the wind whispered. The village was alive that night. Lanterns hung like fallen stars from the trees, casting flickering light on old walls and laughing faces. Drums beat like thunder in the chest, and the scent of sweet rice and roasted maize floated in the air. Arif's son, Zion, was getting married, and the entire village had come to celebrate. Arif sat at the head of the courtyard, proud and glowing. His beard had turned gray, his eyes had softened, but tonight he felt young again. His wife, radiant in a green silk sari, sat beside him, her eyes misty with joy. Children ran with sparklers. Elders hummed folk songs by the fire. The world, it seemed, was at peace. But far beyond the edge of the celebration, something stirred in the earth. Past the fields, past the shadows, past the banyan tree that knew too many secrets. A shape moved like liquid shadow, silent, elegant, ancient. A serpent. It had grown. No longer small and wounded, this was a king among serpents. Its hood, broad and regal. Its eyes, deep, golden knowing. It slithered with purpose, not menace, drawn by something more powerful than hunger. A promise. Back in the courtyard, the wedding rituals had begun. Priests chanted. Guests clapped. Zion, dressed in cream and gold, was about to tie the sacred thread when someone screamed. The music stopped. A drumstick fell to the ground. And from the edge of the light, it emerged. The snake. It didn't hiss. It didn't strike. It simply entered, as if it belonged. Its scales shimmering under the lantern glow, its head held high. Panic erupted. Guests stumbled back. Women pulled children behind them, and some men reached for sticks and fire. Arif stood frozen. His heart pounded, not just from fear, but from recognition. He knew, even before it turned to look directly at him. The serpent stopped in the center of the courtyard. The fire crackled. The wind held its breath. And then again it spoke. Its voice echoed, not from the mouth, but inside the bones. I have returned. Every eye turned to Arif. I have come, the serpent continued, to claim what was promised. A kindness for a kindness. A bond not broken by time. Arif trembled. The voices of the crowd turned into murmurs. What do you mean? He whispered. The serpent rose higher, regal and sorrowful. You gave your word when I was nothing. Today, I ask for nothing but its memory. And that was when Arif realized this was no nightmare. It was a test of truth, of honor, of whether a man could still carry the weight of a boy's promise. and the whole village watched as past and present collided in the form of a silent, golden-eyed serpent. The serpent's words hung in the night like thunder that refused to roll away. The villagers, stunned, now looked not at the snake, but at Arif, their beloved elder, the man they trusted, the man who now stood with shame flooding his face and fear wrapped around his throat. His son Zion, dressed in wedding garlands, stood frozen beside his bride. Drums lay toppled. Torches flickered as whispers turned to murmurs. Is this true? What promise? Is he bewitched? The serpent's eyes did not blink. I ask not for death, only that he honors the vow he made when no one was watching. He promised me a return, a moment when my voice would not be denied. Arif's knees buckled. Memories he had long buried rushed back like a breaking dam. The cursed riverbank, the blood-soaked scarf, the whisper in the barn. You must not deny me. He had tried to forget. And now, forgetting had brought it all to this. I was a child. Arif choked, eyes glistening. It was long ago. I didn't understand. The serpent's gaze remained still. But you meant it. And you saved me, not for reward but because it was right. That makes the promise real. A murmur spread through the crowd, tension mixing with confusion and fear. Wait! What do you want? Shouted one of the elders, his hand clutching a flaming torch. Say it plainly, beast. The snake turned its gaze toward Arif's son. I ask for what is owed. A life given, a life promised. If the father forgets, the son may remember. Gasps erupted. The bride cried out. Arif stepped forward, shielding Zion with trembling arms. No, not my son. Take me instead. Take my blood, my breath, anything but not him. I made the promise, not him. The serpent's hood flared, not in rage, but in sorrow. I am not here to kill. I am here to remind that a vow, once made from the heart, lives longer than flesh. Arif fell to his knees, torn open by guilt. The weight of his forgotten kindness now returned as a burden too heavy for the present. He looked at Zion, his boy, now a man. And then he looked at the serpent. Neither enemy nor friend. Just truth in its purest form. The crowd waited. Would the man of honor deny his past? Would a promise given in youth be dismissed as childish dream? Or would he choose courage, not the kind that slays snakes, but the kind that faces what it once vowed to protect? Silence. And then, footsteps. Zion stepped forward. He stood between his father and the serpent, unarmed, unshaken. If my father's word lives in me, then I must be the one to carry it. The bride screamed. His mother sobbed. Arif reached out, but Zion didn't stop. The serpent watched him, still, waiting. The test was not over. But something had changed. A boy had made a promise. And now, a son stood ready to pay the price for it. Zion stood still, bare feet pressing into the cool dust of the courtyard, the flickering torches casting tall, trembling shadows around him. All eyes were on the young groom now, not the serpent, not Arif, not even the terrified bride who clutched her veil like a lifeline. A strange calm had come over Zion. His heartbeat should have been loud, panicked, full of dread. But there was something else, a stillness, as though the weight of centuries had landed on his shoulders, and he had decided not to shake it off. He turned slightly, just enough to meet his father's eyes. Arif's face was wrecked, lips quivering, eyes wide with the unbearable pain of a father watching his child walk into what he believed to be death. I'm sorry, Abu, Zion said softly. But if this is the cost of a promise, then I will pay it. No, Arif pleaded. I never meant for this. I was a child, I didn't know. I didn't think it would come to this. Zion's eyes did not leave his father's. But you did mean it. That's why you saved him. And that's why I have to do this. If your word is broken, then what am I, Abu? Who am I if I run from it? The villagers, once noisy and panicked, had gone quiet. Some dropped their sticks. Some wept. Even the wind had gone still, as if the earth itself leaned in to listen. The serpent, majestic and still, uncoiled slightly and raised its hood. It looked into Zion's soul, not his face, but deeper. It searched for doubt, for deceit, for fear, and found only courage. "I do not seek blood," the serpent said at last, voice smooth as river water. "I seek truth. And here it stands before me." Zion bowed his head, expecting the end. But the serpent did not strike. Instead, it slithered forward and gently coiled around Zion, not as a hunter, but like a cloak of fate. It circled him once, then twice, and stopped. Arif, still kneeling, cried out, "Please, spare him." But the serpent looked at him, then at his son, and said, "He has already paid." And then something wondrous happened. The serpent began to shed its skin. A golden light rose from its body, soft at first, then glowing like dawn. The air warmed. A hush of awe rippled through the crowd as the old skin peeled away and drifted upward, turning to shimmering dust. When it was done, the serpent lay still for a moment, smaller now, peaceful, and then it looked at Arif one last time. The boy has kept the father's word. The dead is honored. The promise fulfilled. And just like that, it turned and slithered toward the dark fields beyond, its body glowing faintly under the stars until it vanished from sight. Zion remained standing, alive, unharmed, but forever changed. And Arif, tears streaming down his face, realized something. Sometimes it is not blood that proves honor. Sometimes it is the courage to keep your father's forgotten promise, even when it might cost you everything. For a long moment after the serpent vanished into the dark, the courtyard remained frozen in silence. No one moved. No one spoke. It was as if time itself had paused to take a breath, uncertain whether it had just witnessed a miracle or merely the memory of one. Then the torches crackled again, their flames soft and golden. Zion still stood in the same spot, wrapped in stillness, like a statue that had yet to realize it was free. Slowly, his mother approached him, trembling, eyes full of tears, and pulled him into her arms. The crowd watched, unsure if they should cheer or cry or fall to their knees and pray. And Arif still knelt on the ground, hands trembling, heart shattered open by awe and regret and love all at once. He looked at his son, alive and untouched, and then toward the empty place where the serpent had last rested. Something shimmered there. A single golden scale, no larger than a thumbprint, glowed faintly in the dust. Arif rose, his joints aching as if carrying a lifetime, and walked slowly toward it. He bent down, lifted the scale, and held it to the torchlight. It gleamed, not just with light, but with meaning. A gift, a blessing, and a reminder. He held it to his chest, closed his eyes, and whispered, not to the snake, but to the boy he used to be, "Thank you." That night, the wedding continued, but it was no longer just a celebration of two souls coming together. It became a ceremony of something far older, a lesson passed from fathers to sons, a tale that would be told for generations around fires and festival nights. The villagers danced not just for joy, but for the mystery they had witnessed. A promise had been remembered, and so, too, had mercy. In the days that followed, life returned to normal, but not quite. The golden scale was placed above Arif's door, where it shimmered softly each morning when the sun first rose. People came from nearby towns just to see it, and elders would nod and whisper, "That is where a man once kept his word, even after forgetting it." Zion would go on to become a man of great respect, not because he inherited his father's land, but because he carried his father's honor. And Arif, he grew quiet in his later years. Not sad, not tired, just still. Like a man who had finally spoken to his own past and been forgiven. He would sometimes sit by the old riverbank again, barefoot like the boy he once was, listening to the water whisper. And in the hush of dawn, when mist hugged the earth and the world seemed not quite awake, he would smile to himself. Because he knew the serpent had not been a test. It had been a gift. A reminder that even forgotten promises can return not with punishment, but with purpose. In the village of the river, they now say, "A boy's kindness can tame a serpent, but a man's word must never be forgotten." And on every wedding night, a golden scale glows by Arif's door, reminding all, promises speak louder than fear.